Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Koppen report on a couple of players that could potentially be a steal for Rangers when they are looking to buy some players. My name is Radiant, and I run the Albanian football page, which you can also see handled right here, which is at Albanian football. So, what I talk about is basically Albanian players, everything Albanian football, the league, the players, the national team. And the reason why I'm here today with Rangers is obviously because Rangers signed Nedim Bayrami a couple of months ago, and he has been a great success for Rangers so far, but there's still so much more to come. So I was looking at a couple of different possibilities of even more Albanians going to Rangers. So let's just have a look at this. First of all, we have got Ermir Rashita, and he plays the left wing position, as you can also see on the heat map over here. What is very interesting about this guy is that he is only 20 years old. He's a right footed left winger, and he has played in the Albania League for a couple of years now. His transfer market value is the highest of the Albanian League players we're going to have on this list today. So you can say he is the best of the Albanian League bunch. It's 500,000 euros. And he is a guy who is very sought after across the whole of Europe. A couple of months ago, there was quite a lot of talk about him going to Anderlecht in Belgium. There was also quite a lot of talk about him going to Legia Warszawa in Poland, which would maybe make sense given that Albania's biggest league sale in many years went to Legia Warsaw also, which is Ernest Mucci. We could have Ernest Mucci on this list also, but he's a guy who would cost upwards of 20 million. So it wouldn't really be too sensible given the financial situation at the moment. The focus on this video was mostly going to be on left wingers and players with a low risk and a huge upside potential. So I think Emir Rashica, he fits this very well, and I just think he would be a very good option for Rangers in that left wing position, which they have struggled with lately. Moving on, though, we're gonna have the best player on this list by far. This is a Dinamo Zagreb winger called Arber Hoxha, plays for the Albanian national team, as you can also see in the picture here. He played at the Euros. He's played in the Champions League, the Europa League. He's played at very, very high levels, and he himself is a very qualitative player. As you can see, his transfer market value is 1.8 million euros, which is much higher than anything we're going to see on this list. And it makes sense. He's a 26-year-old. He is a very low risk because you know exactly what you're going to get with him. So if Rangers sit there and think this guy is good enough for us, then there's no risk that he's actually gonna get signed and not gonna perform to the levels because he has really reached his peak. You could say he's going through his peak years at the moment. I think you're gonna get 2, 3, maybe in 4 years more out of him at the top level, which I think he is at right now. So yeah, I think he would definitely be the best option if you were simply looking for immediate quality for that left wing. What I will say about Arber Hoxha, which I really like about him, is the fact that he is not a guy who always looks to cut in like you see with many other left wing options. He is right footed, so of course left winger right footed. They look to cut into maybe shoot sometimes, but what he actually likes the most is running down to the byline, running down to the goal line, and just creating a lot of havoc and a lot of chaos for the oppositions by doing that. His absolutely best trait, I would say, is his dribbling and his strong technical qualities. He's very hard to get the ball off, and he's quick both with the ball at his feet or when he doesn't have the ball. So that just makes him a classical left winger, which is something that you need in a team, just to have that bit of pace and that a bit of 1v1 ability to stretch the oppositions and create some sort of havoc for them. Now, let's move on to another guy who I genuinely think would be a steal for many, many teams all across Europe. We've got Feta Fetai, who's only 19 years old and plays in the Croatian league, just like Arber Hoxha, who we just mentioned. This is a guy who plays for NK Lokomotiva Zagreb. His transfer market value, which I think is quite misleading, to be honest, is 350,000 euros, but it might be due to the fact that his contract expires in the summer. This is a midfielder, as you can see. He's not a left winger as we've previously had. He creates quite a lot of volume. He creates quite a lot during the game, and he's actually called the Albanian Luka Modric. Of course, he's not as good as Luka Modric. Probably won't be as good as him, but it's also due to his looks that he has this game. As you can see, his hair is a bit reminiscent of a certain Luka Modric, but also his play style is sort of similar. He's a guy who's very good going forward, very good going back, and doesn't have a problem at all with having the ball at his feet. If we're looking at his heat map over here, you can see he's all over the pitch. It's not just on the right, on the left, in his own third, the final third. He's basically everywhere, and he's a bit of a bulldog, a bit of a pit bull on that field because he's just running around and trying his absolute hardest all the time. What I will say about him is very good technical qualities, very good with the ball at his feet, but he doesn't really shy away from a tackle. He's not afraid to get stuck in. If you look at his ground duels down here, he wins 61% of them, which is quite good. You just need to think about the fact that he wins a lot more duels than he actually loses, which is rare. You don't see it in too many players nowadays. And that's why he also gets quite a lot of yellow cards, to be honest, because he really goes all in to most of his tackles. But that's just what it is. You can't have it all, as you can say. If you're rough in tackles, you're gonna get some yellow cards. I think a lot of his other work kind of compensates for it. The thing about this guy is a guy who put on the list simply because I think he's good. He's got quality. I think for the price, he's worth it for basically anyone who wants to come and pick it up. He doesn't have the quality at the moment to go to one of the top leagues like La Liga or a Premier League or something like that. But I think he could play in almost any other league. Or other than that, he could definitely play Championship. He can play in the Scottish Premiership. He can play in some of those other leagues, and the Croatian league certainly isn't a bad league either. So I know Rangers have quite a lot of midfield options, and it would maybe he would have to fight for a spot with Barron most likely, because I think Nico Raskan has submitted his spot. Diomande is doing quite well, so that he would have to fight with Barron and then maybe fight with the other two guys for his spot. But I think he's definitely an option. Now, if we move on back into the Albania League, I've got a duo from my own club. This is the club I support, which is Cafe Vlasnia. So yeah, a left winger / striker, second striker duo from Vlasnia. First of all, we're gonna look at Antonio Delay. He's 21 years old, but in Albania, it's very hard to actually make a breakthrough before that. Anyone who's under 21 years old doesn't really get a look at. So yeah, that's why he's only just started playing football for the senior team now, at the heavy age of 21, you could even say. We haven't really seen too much of him. He's only played 12 games this season, 5 starts. Not too much to really judge who he is. That's why he's a bit of a higher risk. But for 200,000 euros, which is his market value, maybe even you could get it for lower than that, because Albanian clubs aren't really in a great positions to negotiate these sort of fees. I think he has okay upside potential. I wouldn't say he's a guy who I expect to light it up in any league, to be honest. But I definitely think if you get him for an okay price, he could turn out to be an okay investment, and you can sell him on for even more, or you could get some very good performances out of him. The reason why I like him so much is because he's a left winger with very great ball striking. You see some goals from him sometimes where he just bangs it from 20, 30 meters, and he just bangs it in the net. He's not afraid of shooting a goal, which you see quite a lot of time with players. They always try to play it safe, play it short. This guy's a guy who actually dares to shoot. I like that. I like people who take risks, and that's why I genuinely enjoy watching him play football. And I would like him to see him make that step up. So he's definitely an option. Maybe not the best of the ones, but also quite a lower risk. And then we move on to maybe one of the biggest talents in Albania at the moment. He plays also for the Albanian under 21 national teams. He plays for Vlasnia senior team, and he has done for quite a while now, and he's basically cemented his spot there. So if we have a look at him, he's 19 years old, which is quite rare in Albanian football, as I just mentioned, to make your step up to the senior team. Plays for Vlasnia. Transfer market value is 350,000 euros, which is I think it's a fair fee given what some of the other players in the league are sold for, and he also has a contract which expires in 2.5 years. So a bit of leverage there for Vlasnia, which means you probably get him for his value, and you can't really negotiate too much for him. But I think this is a guy who has a lot more potential, and even though he's going to be a bit more costly than a Daylight, for example, who we just looked at, I just think his upside potential is so high that he's worth the risk, in my opinion. You see some players who are bought for 2, 3, 4 million, sometimes even, and they don't produce anything. Whereas if you get a guy for 350,000 euros and he doesn't produce anything, okay, you didn't really lose too much. But you can also get him to do just something, and you will get that feedback if you want to sell him. And then if he starts performing, then you can easily 10 times your money because you sell him for 3 million, and it's a very, very good investment. And this is why I think a signing of Kevin Dodai would have huge upside potential. He's a guy who has a lot of quality when he has the ball at his feet. He loves being, this leading creator, if you can say. Think about a guy like maybe Lorenzo Insigne. Lorenzo Insigne, when he played for Napoli, he was a left winger, but he always had the ball. So the whole tactic was about getting the ball to the left wing so he could cut in or continue down the byline and just to create this game from there. It's the same thing with this guy. He has so much quality that you can give him the responsibility of running a game, and that's exactly what he's gonna do. I don't think he has the quality at the moment to just jump in at Rangers and do that, but simply due to the fact that he has the amount of quality that he has, he would still be able to get into a Rangers team and perform at an okay level, I think. And now, if we move on to the only player who is completely defensive minded in this, I think he would also be a very good option, simply due to the fact that he's a 22-year-old center back who's quite good. He's played for Albania a couple of times. He's played for the Albanian under 21 national teams many times, and he is fairly highly rated by his club Benfica. The problem is he hasn't actually played for Benfica's senior team at any given stage. He's always registered amongst the league teams, the cup teams, and the Champions League squads, but he doesn't really get the minutes. Also, a testament to the big quality that there is in the Benfica. It's tough to get a guy like Nicolas Otamendi out of the team, who simply has so much quality that it's tough to get him out there. But he has just signed a new contract for Benfica, which keeps him at the club until 2029, which also simply means that they believe in him and they see some sort of potential in him. I think the fee of 1.5 million is a bit of a risk, simply due to the fact that he hasn't played too much senior football, and you would have to see how he adapts to that. I think he definitely fits in better in the Portuguese league than he does in somewhere like Scotland, where he would have to undergo a bit of an adaptation period. But he's definitely an option. And I think, for example, a guy like Leon Balogun, who is 36 years old, he needs some guy to replace him at some point. Then maybe you could look at Adrian Bayrami. He is probably the biggest risk on this list because you don't really know exactly what you're going to get, and the fee is quite high, as we have seen by now. Many of the fees are even under 500,000, except for Arbe Hoja, who was 1.8 billion. This guy has a 1.5 million value, and you don't really know exactly what you're going to get. But again, if you buy a guy like this and he starts performing at a very high level, which he can because he definitely does have some sort of potential to him, then you could sell him for huge amounts. And huge amounts, it doesn't mean 50 million, but it means 7 to 8 millions. And then you're gonna make a great deal of profit on him, or you're gonna simply have a very good player. So I think overall, as we can see, the focus was on left wingers. I think if I was to pick two, which I think would be the best, I think the best one would be Arber Hoja. I think it's therefore a guy that maybe should be even brought in by now, simply because Rangers want to win the league. They want to compete well in Europe also. So why not get a guy in who's got the experience at the high level, who has proved himself against big teams, against small teams, who has the technical qualities and have all the attributes of a very good left winger. So I think he's definitely the best option on this list. Also the most costly, but I think for 1.8 million, he's definitely worth it. And then if you want to, you know, try and get a steal, try and get a guy with lower risk and higher upside potential, maybe, then you go for a guy like Kevin Dodai, who defo has a very bright future in football, or you go for a guy like Emir Ashita, who defo also has a very good future in football. The only thing we need to note here is that Emir Ashita is a guy who's, wanted by the whole of Europe, so there's going to be loads of competition, and his market value might even get even higher than that, and you're gonna have to pay a bit more because you're gonna have to undergo a bidding war. So I think you might be able to get him for 500 to 600,000. You'll get Arbor Hoja for 1.5 to 2 million, and you'll definitely be able to get Kevin Dodai for, I think, his transfer market value, because he is still a bit of an unknown player. So yeah, that's all I had for you today, folks. I think we had a lot of Albanian possibilities here, and I would love for more Albanians to go to Rangers and try to prove themselves. I'm not saying they're at the same level as Nedim Barami. These guys are definitely a bit of a touch lower, but I could definitely see some of these players become very good players for Rangers.